The information and news you need. News Talk KVNU 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
KVNU News Time is 5:03. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Mount Logan Laundry. Creating a safe place and an avenue for two-way communication. Those are important elements to Logan High School's Hope Squad. On KVNU's For the People program this past week, Hope Squad advisor Amy Anderson said students tend to know when fellow students are struggling.
But it's really hard because they don't want to be considered snitches.
Sure.
And they're not always sure what's going to happen after. And so my job is to build a relationship with them so they can feel vulnerable and trust the adults in the school to then connect students to resources.
Sure.
So that's a huge part. And they also do training. We do QPR training so they're able to recognize warning signs in students.
One of the students involved in Hope Squad is James Greenwall, who is also on the National Council. He talked about why he decided to get involved.
In middle school, there was this anonymous poll that you would just take and then you'd get voted in. And I made it in through that poll, and I just made it to the Hope Squad. And I've loved being in the Hope Squad because I've been able to help other students, and I just love helping people. I like to be able to get to know people, get to know what they're going through, and then just help them go through it. It makes me feel like I matter and I have an importance. I think Hope Squad's a great thing.
We'll hear from another student who's also on the National Council on a later KVNU newscast. Meanwhile, Anderson said it's about being able to recognize when students need help and also when it's past their level to help. She said if someone scratches their knee, you can help them with that. But if they break their leg, then they need to go to a doctor. And that's the way it is with mental health. KVNU News Time is 5:05. KVNU weather for tonight, partly cloudy skies is our forecast, in the overnight low in the low 30s. Mostly sunny, upper 50s on Tuesday. Mostly sunny, close to 60 on Wednesday before chance of rain by late Wednesday night. Spin to 53, or make that 59. It's 53 right now at KVNU. Be sure and download the Chevron app and join Chevron Rewards. Then you can save $1 per gallon on your next 3 visits. Visit any Cache Valley Chevron station for details.
Have you pulled your winter quilts and blankets out of storage? Do they smell stale and look flat? And is your hunting gear, sleeping bags, and coats dingy as well? Well, go to Mount Logan Laundry. It'll take no time at all to freshen everything up with their 55 and 80-pound washers and dryers, the biggest around, and it costs a whole lot less than dry cleaning, with free Wi-Fi and drop-off service. Mount Logan Laundry really is the cleanest spot in town. They're on the corner of 5th East and 9th North in Logan, or in Brigham City at 1st East and 7th South.
Structure fire in Tremonton left a shed destroyed Sunday afternoon. Crews from the Tremonton Fire Department and Garland Fire Department responded to the area of the blaze sometime before 4 p.m. on Sunday. Upon arrival, officials worked to put out the fire, while the shed that had caught fire was a complete loss. Once crews gained control, they said they were able to stop the fire from spreading to nearby exposures. The cause is under investigation. No injuries were reported. At their next regular meeting on Tuesday, members of the Logan Municipal Council will likely vote on whether to approve a new schedule of fees for select services provided by Parks and Recreation. Under the proposed resolution, that schedule includes fees for the ice rink at the new Lob Plaza in downtown Logan and price increases for the Logan River Golf Course, according to Russ Aquina, the city's Parks and Recreation director. Aquina's staff has recommended that the base fee for using the downtown ice rink would be $5 per person for a 90-minute skate session. Discounted 90-minute sessions would be available for seniors over 60, military veterans, and children under the age of 3 for $3. The city staff has also recommended that the ice rink offer a special $15 rental rate on Monday evenings for a family of 5 or less, with additional family members costing $3. Equipment rental fees are proposed at $3 for ice skates, $3 for a skate trainer walker, and $1 for a helmet. KVNU News Time is 5:08. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
When it comes to home care, it's important to know you have a choice. If you or a loved one is in need of hospice or home health services, remember that Primrose Home Care and Hospice believes in treating the patient as well as the problem. We work directly with you and your doctor to create a health plan that's catered to your needs. Our team is devoted to providing options in the freedom and safety of your own home. Visit us at primrosecare.com or call to schedule a free consultation. Primrose Home Care and Hospice, your local hospice and home health provider since 2006.
Clean it up and get it out this fall.
Don't wait another winter. Let DD Auto and Salvage pay you for that junk vehicle. DD Auto and Salvage makes it so easy and fast to get rid of your junker vehicles by paying you the most money possible. Pickup is available. If you have metal, DD Auto and Salvage in Logan want to pay you today. Search DD Auto and Salvage today or call 787-1204.
That's 787-1204.
See store for details.
At the Sports Academy, we are grateful for our team, instructors, and certified trainers who provide the best group classes and are committed to your results. We are grateful to be able to provide the largest selection of brand new cardio and strength equipment. Most of all, we are grateful for the good health that we all enjoy. Join us in giving thanks this month. Donate a non-perishable food item and sign up for just $25. Let's all give thanks for our good health and enjoy life at the Sports Academy. Your club, your results, your life.
No one wants to deal with expensive medical bills, pushy insurance adjusters, and chronic pain after a car accident. What you need is an advocate by your side. Call the advocates today for a free case evaluation at 801-355-5550 or chat online at utahodvocates.com.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Hour 2 of today's show, Monday, November 13th. I'm Jason Williams. Coming up, an update from UDOT on all the road construction you saw this summer and a project that just got underway October 2nd that's still impacting traffic and will throughout the remainder of the year on Highway 91 through Smithfield. I just want to point out a couple of things, though. There is a new light on Highway 8991 at the south end of the valley. Man, is it nice. If you've traveled along the highway coming out of the canyon into Logan, you know there was an intersection that folks at the south end of the valley call Ted's intersection. Well, it's no longer Ted's intersection. In fact, the intersection is shifted about 100 yards further north down the highway at a four-way stop light. And man, the safety, we can't quantify this kind of thing, but the safety improvement there has to be huge. That intersection had claimed lives and been the result of many, many accidents over the years. And just so nice to see that, honestly. I know, it's for long-timers, those of us who've lived here a long time, it's kind of annoying to see more stops and starts pop up in areas that used to be straight shots. But if you've seen the amount of traffic coming on to the highway there through the Nibley area as you enter Logan, it's just a dangerous stretch of road there for a while. A lot better with changes to these intersections and the stoplight aligning that intersection as well for those who take that road out towards Mendon, and a lot do. So it means a longer travel. Well, not really too much, but it's a much safer stretch. And just hats off to Logan City and UDOT for making that happen as quickly as they did. That was long overdue, and I thought it would be a while longer. I was actually surprised to see the lights in and operational a couple of weeks ago. So enjoy it. And for folks in Nibley, this has to be welcome as well. They now have 2 great ways in and out of town that end with stoplights to allow them to get out rather than sitting there. And of course, there's no mention of Highway 8991, Main Street, Logan, any stretch of road out there without my typical complaint / plea that we all stop with the left-hand turns onto major roadways if possible. I know at times it's not possible. You have to do it. But, man, it would be so nice if everyone stopped. They're so dangerous. They slow traffic. And honestly, those of you sitting there with your left-hand turn signal light on, trying to turn left across traffic onto 8991, you are wasting your own time. There are now 3 or 4 other ways to get on the roadway headed south that would involve a light that would take seconds, 30 seconds, as opposed to the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 minutes you're going to sit there with your left turn signal on and put everyone, including yourself, at risk when you finally get to go. Whew. Okay, rant over. Attorney General Sean Reyes in the news again today. This, unfortunately, is not good news, and it raises some questions, especially for one Utah senator, Republican Senator, State Senator Mike McKell, quoted in the Salt Lake Tribune story saying, it might be time to make a change here in Utah to appoint rather than elect our attorney general, the top cop, the top law enforcement officer of the state, basically. In the headlines, yet again, this is about the 3rd or 4th story, somehow tied in with fraudsters, Tim Ballard, connected to, tech gurus who have duped him in the past. And the story today about lavish vacations and trips to Acapulco, Los Cabos, Mexico, Lisbon, Portugal, all of these not spent not paid for with taxpayer dollars, so that's good, but paid for with campaign funds in a year that Reyes was not up for re-election, which I think raises a fair question that Senator McKell is asking here, which is why are we incentivizing Utah's top cop to have so much money to burn? Maybe we should consider taking the money out of politics when it comes to the Attorney General by making a gubernatorial appointed position. I am so happy to hear this conversation happening, finally. I don't know that it will happen. It's one state senator. I believe would require a constitutional amendment. I'm not sure about that. But, again, just too much money. Re-election money necessary. The Salt Lake Tribune story details, $46,000 hunting trips. It details, $1,600 a night hotels at different conferences, including the National Governors Association conference. This is not an attorney general living on the cheap. And thankfully, again, this wasn't taxpayer money. This was campaign funds, but still. Apparently, the Attorney General has a lot of money to burn. And Senator Mike McKell said that creates the wrong incentives. I agree with him. Check out the story. I've linked to it on our Facebook page and McKell's response, both linked there. And we'll be talking more about this as the legislative session nears. We might even see a bill unveiled to make this change. We'll see. But, wish we could stop seeing these headlines. We'll be back right after this.
Coming up on the Tuesday edition of the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show, the latest on the Israel-Hamas war and President Biden's efforts here at home to deal with the political turmoil of his party's support for the Palestinian cause. Plus, Clay,
we'll continue to break down the fallout of Tim Scott dropping out of the race as we move closer and closer to the Iowa caucuses. It'll be Clay and Buck Tuesday.
10 to 1 on News Talk KVNU, 102 FM and 610 AM.
Are you a business owner or HR director that's frustrated with your current employee benefits? If you are confused about coverages and can't get a hold of your agent, it's time for a change. This is Matt Robbins with Quality First Insurance and Alera Benefits. As an independent agency, we will give you options. Let us give your benefits package a fresh look. Call Quality First Insurance and Alera Benefits today, 435-752-0101.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Leaders here in Utah recently attended what is called the Conservative Climate Summit.
This is put together by, several people involved with this, but Representative John Curtis in Utah is one of the founders of the Conservative Climate Caucus, which is a legislative caucus in the United States Congress. But this summit is something that kind of spun from that. Utah organizations get behind this and host what they call a leadership conference or a summit in order to take the work of this caucus, take the work of others out there. We've spoken before with a conservative group coming out of northern Utah, in fact, that is pushing certain climate change addressing proposals, from tax incentives to reduce your emissions as a company or a producer to penalties, actually, that are similar to a carbon tax but more nuanced. There are a lot of different ways you can get in touch with this kind of thing. The conservative approach. I've linked to some of the caucus's documentation, but also links to video of the summit itself that happened in Salt Lake on our Facebook page if you want to check it out. Most of it is long form, a couple hours long in total, but it was done through breakout sessions and panels, and a lot of that video is easy to find if you want to just search for it as well. But a few links on our Facebook page. It's been interesting to watch because there's been this evolution. Congressman Rob Bishop, when he was in office, he was the first Republican in Utah to very bluntly say, he was asked a question, which was basically, do you believe in anthropomorphic climate change? Which is, do you believe humans are contributing and exacerbating the changing of our climate through greenhouse gas emissions that are warming the planet and the oceans? That was the specific question. And Congressman Bishop said, yes, absolutely. In fact, the science is pretty clear. And it was national news for weeks. Now, okay, I'm exaggerating, but it was at least a day. It was national news that a Republican had said this. And then Republicans started coming out of the woodwork and saying, well, I mean, yeah, it had become such a political football that Republicans were afraid to say this because people, in their base would pile on because it was such a political football. But times have changed. And one of the things that has changed this for conservatives and as my friend Paul Miro, a devout, lifelong conservative, would argue, conservatives have always believed in climate change, and they've always believed that humans are contributing to it with some of our output and pollution. What the conservatives have disagreed with, Paul would say, is the proposed solutions and how drastically we need to act. That's where the difference came in. So conservatives were always there, Paul would argue. The Republican Party and elected officials within the party, a different story. It became such a political football, they couldn't talk about it. And Representative John Curtis said, this is an actual quote, he said, you know what, this is ridiculous. We all see the science. We all have the same access as every elected official up here to the information that comes our way through Congress's own research arms and reports from the military. That's what really kind of hammered this home. Is you had the Pentagon reports from the military saying, look, climate change is going to destabilize certain regions of the world as deserts expand, as wet areas move around, as weather gets more erratic, which is all what scientists have predicted climate change will bring, and we're seeing that now. And so they said this is a national security issue, and that got Republicans' attention. And so finally they started talking about it. And John Curtis said, we need to talk about it more because an exact quote from Representative Curtis, he said, Democrats are owning this one. And what that is causing is all the ideas are coming from them. And conservatives shouldn't let that continue. Now, behind the scenes, not for Representative Curtis, but for the larger Republican Party, there's another issue here. If you look at polling, voters under the age of 30, roughly, put climate change as either their top or second in line concern. And additional polling shows that there is a lack of faith among younger voters that Republicans have solutions. So Representative Curtis isn't thinking about that, but the overall national Republican Party and state parties increasingly are thinking that. Young voters want solutions. They want proposals to deal with climate change because they're worried about the planet. In fact, there is also evidence showing that declines in birth rates in the United States may be a direct result of concerns over climate change. People choosing not to have kids because they don't want to contribute to the climate problem, but also, and more alarming, they're not having kids because they're not confident there will be a decent planet for their kids to have their own kids in. And that's depressing to think about, that we have an entire generation that has that mindset, or a lot of them at least have that mindset. Representative Curtis said, his response to this is we need to show them that conservatives and Republicans have solutions. But he said at this climate summit recently, we also need to do more to direct the conversation, because he said there are a lot of things that he, as a conservative Republican, feel Democrats are missing or leaving out from the conversation around climate change. And here's just a bit of his presentation. He did this at the Sutherland Institute. They asked him. So he made a few comments like this during a panel during the Conservative Climate Summit here in Salt Lake last week. And Sutherland Institute invited him back this week to expand on what he said. And here's what he said at the Sutherland Institute event just earlier today.
This is an astounding fact. The United States has reduced more greenhouse gas emissions over the last decade and a half than most of the countries trying to reduce emissions combined. We did that, hold your breath, with a fossil fuel. Natural gas is much cleaner than many other sources. And so instead of saying, look, fossil fuels are bad, I think it's a much better conversation to say, how do we reduce emissions? And if that's using, you mentioned the balance, okay, if that's renewables, if that's nuclear, if that's fossil fuels, how are we best able to reduce emissions and hang on to those things like national security, energy independence at low affordable price? This is an astounding fact. The United States has reduced.
That was, again, John Curtis speaking at Sutherland Institute event today. Sutherland Institute has been hosting a weekly series, which they're also putting out as a podcast, called Defending Ideas, Common Sense Conservatism. And so it's interesting for me to watch this, too, because even Sutherland has shifted on this one. 10 years ago, the Sutherland Institute, and this is how Paul Miro and I actually became friends, believe it or not. Sutherland Institute was hosting a climate series, a series of panels and speakers. And I was so excited about this because of what John Curtis is talking about today. Okay, here is, the right side of the conversation. The left side of the conversation around climate change has been around for decades, and definitely Democrats, embracing the left on climate change, have owned that discussion. And all you've heard from Republicans and conservatives is we don't believe in it, which increasingly just means we're pretending it doesn't exist, because again, the science is right there in your face. So I was so excited when the Sutherland Institute hosted this, because I'm a firm believer in the fact that to get the best policy, you need a war of ideas. You need left and right, knocking heads occasionally, but hopefully for the most part, compromising, coming up with ways to include important priorities for both sides, and then you end up with some decent policy. So I was so excited, and then they brought in all of these representatives from big oil conglomerates. And it was interesting. There was quite a bit to learn still. But I told Paul and the rest of the leadership of Sutherland, I said, big mistake. Because now it just looks like an advertisement. You could have done this credibly. And I was so disappointed. And nothing like that has happened in Utah since. Until Representative John Curtis launches this Conservative Climate Caucus in Congress, and that leads to this Conservative Climate Summit. Second annual, by the way, that took place. It was, I'm sorry, I said Salt Lake. It was actually in Orem at Utah Valley University. And outgoing, now retired at this point, I believe, Congressman Chris Stewart was there as well. And GOP nominee for his seat, the seat he's vacated, Celeste Malloy was there as well. But there were a lot of experts on hand. And here's what was great. They had scientists. They had researchers from UVU and other universities as well. This wasn't just like an this wasn't just oil industry reps standing up there saying, you could drink this stuff in your morning cereal, which is kind of what was happening 10 years ago on the right. So this is so encouraging to see. And you heard from Representative Curtis there, to kind of translate what he said there. What he's saying is, look, this idea that we can do this without fossil fuels entirely is silly. And I actually agree. And there are some on the extreme left out there who are even opposed to nuclear because, I mean, granted, nuclear energy does present some significant risks, and you do need a lot of water to make it work with current technology. New technologies are coming online, every year. But right now, if you're just going to wave a magic wand and set up a nuclear power plant here in Utah, you would need to use a lot of the water. And as you may have heard, it's kind of a precious resource in a desert state. So, we have to be realistic about this. There are no magic wands, but Curtis is right. Fossil fuels, if we were to just switch off the fossil fuel spigot tomorrow, and I completely agree, we should have done something 10, 15, 20 years ago. We should have done more, but we didn't. So here we are now today. You can't just switch them off. That would the effects of that economically on everyone's quality of life just unimaginable. So you can't just switch them off, but you can push for the adoption of more natural gas use, which is cleaner than burning oil or coal. You can. Curtis also pointed this out. He said, for my side of things, the Republican side of things, we need to stop being. This is an exact quote. Curtis said, "We need to stop being silly about wind and solar." It's working. Other countries have built a huge portion of their power grid off of wind and solar, and yet a lot of my colleagues will still tell me solar doesn't work when the sun isn't up. And Curtis said, I just want everyone to be better informed on my side of things because we're wasting our time making these arguments because we have ideas. It was a fascinating thing to see. Again, I've linked to the video on our Facebook page if you want to check it out. Please do. This was the second annual. We'll be back again next year, roughly the same time. And there's actually a subscription for an email newsletter to stay up to date on these events. It was hosted at UVU this time. I believe next year they're planning on going a little further south, a location in the Moab area. But again, this is a one-of-a-kind thing happening, and hats off to one of Utah's federal delegates, Congressman Chris Stewart from Utah's 3rd Congressional District, for launching this Conservative Climate Caucus and the annual Conservative Climate Summit. An amazing conversation, and believe me, it might take a bit more, but it will make everything better when it comes to the policy coming out of these debates, to have both sides presenting ideas and countering proposals instead of just one with the other one getting ignored. So all good news, and check it out. Again, links on our Facebook page, and we'll be back right after this.
Thank you, Jason. KBNU News Time is 5:30, and this look at the news brought to you by U&I Furniture. Hundreds of people marched through downtown Salt Lake City for a Free Palestine rally on Saturday. The Palestinian Solidarity Association of Utah and Party for Socialism and Liberation organized the event. A deadly surprise attack on Israel by Palestinian militant group Hamas back on October 7th brought renewed attention to the decades-long conflict in the Middle East, including rallies and marches around the world. According to a flyer for Saturday's event, the rally called for cutting all U.S. aid to Israel, ending the siege on Gaza, freeing all Palestinian political prisoners, and freeing Palestine. Organizers shared on social media the occupation of Palestine by Israel must end now. They wish to show the Biden administration that the working poor and oppressed people of the U.S. stand with Palestine. New data suggests teenagers are putting down the vapes. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention shows that middle and high school vaping rates have dropped 14 to 10% in the last year. In Utah, the State Department of Health and Human Services says youth vaping rates, that the rates have also been declining from 12% in 2019 to 7% now. The state used an anonymous study to ask students a series of questions related to vaping. Dr. Dixie Harris, a pulmonary critical care and sleep physician at Intermountain Health, said the results are great news when it comes to Utah youth and their lungs. She said since vaping use has not been studied as much as cigarettes, it's hard to know the extent of just how bad it is for you. But she said it cannot be good. Tobacco Prevention and Control Program Manager Garden Ainsworth says the state attributes the decrease largely to legislation limiting youth access and effective anti-vaping marketing. And a 21-year-old man sustained critical injuries after a rollover crash on I-15 in Davis County. Sergeant Cameron Roden with the Utah Highway Patrol said the man was traveling northbound on I-15 in Clearfield when his vehicle left the roadway to the right and rolled as it re-entered the road. Roden said the driver was the only occupant of the vehicle at the time of the crash, which happened at about 4:15 Saturday morning. He was ejected in very critical condition and transported to a local hospital. KVNU weather brought to you by the Duct Hunter. Clothes dryer vents can get clogged with lint. Birds can even build nests in them. Let the Duct Hunter clean them out for you. Call 435-770-4813. Partly cloudy tonight and overnight, mid-30s, and then sunny tomorrow, around 58 for the high. It was 59 today. And you can always get more news at CashValleyDaily.com.
UNI is back from market with more furniture than ever. UNI purchased 2 big trailer loads from Best Brand Furniture. It's in the store now. Sectionals, sofa and loves, reclining and stationary, accent chairs, lift chairs, recliners, and ottomans. Purchase any of these bargain sectionals of sofa loves, and UNI will give you $100 off on the purchase of a chair to go with it. And UNI has lots of closeout bargains on the floor at hundreds of dollars less than you'll find anywhere out there. There's always a better buy at UNI. 6 months interest-free financing. OAC is available too. UNI Furniture for over 90 years in downtown Logan.
What if we told you the next 3 times you fill your tank, you could save money? Well, at Chevron, it's true. You can get $1 off per gallon on your next 3 visits when you download the Chevron app and join Chevron Rewards. Earn points on every fuel transaction and qualifying in-store purchases at any Cache Valley Chevron station. Doesn't it feel great to get rewarded for being you? Download the app and join to get started today. Terms and conditions apply. Visit any Cache Valley Chevron station for details or go to ChevronTexacoRewards.com.
Hi, this is Britton Atkinson with White Pine Funeral Services. We are excited to host our annual holiday concert featuring a choir and musical ensemble by Jay Richards. All are welcome to attend free of charge. We would like to extend a special invite to those who are missing a loved one this holiday season. Food donations are encouraged at the door for the Cache Food Pantry. The performance will be held at White Pine on Tuesday, December 5th at 7 o'clock p.m. Please visit whitepinefunerals.com for more information.
I spend a lot of time in the garage, but even more time in the rain, sleet, and mud. In 95, I helped tow your moving trailer. In 05, I helped you get out of a ditch. Yeah, I know I'm a bit rusty, and sadly in 09, it was sparks from me, your handy chains, dragging behind your truck that accidentally started a wildfire.
Sparks from dragging chains can start a wildfire. Spark a change, not a wildfire. Visit SmokeyBear.com. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. As the warm weather continues into the, warm-ish weather continues into the fall. Let's start over. As there is no snow on the ground and things have stayed seasonably average, temperature-wise, a little bit above a few days, last week and this. It has allowed for construction to continue. You may have noticed out there on SR 165 through the Nibley and Millville area between Providence and Hiram. That project is, almost completed, but it's completed enough that strange little shifting of lanes that wasn't very safe at all has gone away. But you'll also notice that the stop traffic at regular intervals on Valley View Highway is still a thing. So it's good that construction can continue because the projects get further along. But if you, like me, feel like it was a big year of impacts on your drive throughout Cache Valley and just outside of the valley, you're not alone. We recently had a chance to speak with Mitch Shaw, a Region 1 UDOT spokesperson, about how busy they've been this year and why.
We have been very, very busy this year, and you're right. So Region 1 spans from, essentially Region 1 is everything north of and including right now up in the northern reaches of our state. So first one probably to kind of talk about is our SR30 project. We've had a few closures over the past couple weekends, and that's a project that we've been looking at for a long time, and that has had some impacts, and it will continue to have impacts. So that's a very important road, as people up in your neck of the woods know. Right now, we're kind of doing, and I hesitate to say this, but it's construction preparation. I know people traveling through the area will say, well, what is construction preparation? You're closing the road. So we're doing things like, we're placing some fencing, right-of-way fencing, and we're just kind of getting the area ready for construction. We're grabbing the existing surface. We actually put some drainage structure in last weekend so that water can flow underneath the highway there. And the real big sort of heavy lifting construction stuff is going to happen next year.
Sure.
So something for people to look out for. And when that happens, we're going to be adding travel lanes. We're going to increase the width of the shoulders, flattening some of the slopes. That's an issue on the road as well. And then we're also putting in a recreational trail that'll be on the south side of the highway, and then we'll have on the north side of the highway we'll have a new sidewalk. So a lot of stuff going on there. We're doing some improvements to the intersection with SR 23. So it is a massive project, and we're kind of just getting ready for it right now. But yeah, that's something that people can and should expect to continue to see some travel impacts.
Sure. A multi-year project, right? Including,
yes,
as I understand it, it requires wetlands mitigation for wetlands that will be displaced. It requires, you mentioned that intersection. Many people in the valley know that has been a dangerous intersection for a long time. The end result of this, a much safer intersection there, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, safety is our top priority. I mean, we're adding some capacity as well. But yeah, the big thing is it's going to be safer, and then people will have the added benefit of things will be smoother to drive on, and their commute times will be less. So
sure.
Right now we've been having like some temporary single lane closures, just to facilitate some of the work we're doing, and we try to keep those closures. We try to keep the delay to 5 minutes in the daytime.
Oh wow!
And then we're also doing it at night, and then those night delays or weekend delays, we can go up to 15 minutes, but we're trying to keep those to a minimum. 5 minutes is not super long, but we anticipate those kind of temporary lane closures to be in place until 2023.
Sure.
Or sorry, the end of this year, the end of 2023, and then, like I said, once spring hits and the weather starts getting warmer, then you're going to see some bigger construction activities out there next year.
And at that point, it's fair to say we should all count on and just plan for longer-term single-lane closures and things like that, understandably, as that construction begins, right?
Yeah. And it's always we know going in that these projects can be very impactful, and they are at times. People will have to, like the The detour we had detour we suggested last week could have added, a half an hour to your trip. So
sure,
we know that's nothing, to downplay. That's a significant impact. So we're trying to, get the message out, and thank you for your help in doing that. But trying to get the message out so people just at least know what to expect and that they can plan ahead.
Sure. And understandably, when it comes to SR 30, it's a unique road. In most situations where a significantly traveled highway is being closed temporarily, the detour is, a couple blocks this way or that way and then back around. You're talking about a road that is surrounded by wetlands, and there's not really a decent route near. So I've been telling everyone, Mitch, just take the canyon, just go through Sardine Canyon to Brigham City. It's going to save you time, especially next year, but. Has the project run into unexpecteds, or is everything kind of on pace as expected?
Yeah, things are on pace right now. So, like I said, heavy construction doesn't begin until next year. But yeah, things are going well. We're moving along right now, and we're preparing for this. What will be a pretty busy construction season next year.
Absolutely. Throughout Cache Valley and all of Region 1, no doubt. But
yes,
for listeners, again, we're speaking with Communications Director for UDOT Region 1, Mitch Shaw. And Mitch, before we let you go today, there's another project, another frequently traveled route out of the valley without good alternatives, Logan Canyon through to Garden City. But this is a much more mild as far as traffic impact construction project, but also with an important public safety factor.
Yeah, so the Logan Canyon project is something we're installing fiber conduit up there. So, something that people have kind of pointed out in the past is that you drive up Logan Canyon and you don't really have cell phone service up there.
Sure.
And that can be problematic because if there's a crash up there, that can take. It's not just a quick cell phone call to alert the authorities. So that's something that will be improved with this project we're doing. And we've been doing this project in phases, and it still needs some funding to be totally complete. But yeah, we're working up there right now on a section, and we're going to probably be working up there until October for this particular section. Good news is we typically aren't closing the canyon, so people should be able to travel through there. Could be some delays sometimes, but yeah, this is another one of those projects where, for our concern, or for our concern as well, is it's going to allow us to install traffic cameras up there and traffic sensors. Sorry.
That's great.
And then also you see on a lot of roads up there, we have the electronic message boards. This will allow us to have our changeable message signs so we can change them remotely. So whatever, if there's a big weather impact ahead, or if we need to provide some sort of information to the travelers, this is a project that will allow us to do stuff like that as well. So this is another project that definitely has its impacts to the traveling public, and can kind of be, annoying, for lack of a better term, to people traveling through the canyon sometimes. But we think it's a necessity, and when all is said and done, it's going to be a much safer route to travel for the people of Utah and people traveling through Utah.
That was, again, Mitch Shaw, Communications Director for UDOT Region 1. And since we spoke with Mitch, one other project has come online, has begun. October 2nd, replacement of the Smithfield Culvert began. This is a pretty big project for a single culvert, but it does involve, the entire roadway. So throughout the remainder of this year, US 91 through Smithfield, there will be one southbound lane and two northbound lanes. That will be throughout the project, Mitch told us just this week. I reached out and said, hey, can we get an update on this one? Again, it kicked off October 2nd. And he said, well, this is going to be completed December 31st. That's the goal. and then they won't be able to finalize the asphalt and road surface entirely until it warms again in the spring of 2024. So again, throughout the remainder of the year there through Smithfield on Highway 91, US 91, it will be restricted to one southbound lane and two northbound lanes throughout the project. Mitch said that helps them so they're installing a temporary water diversion system along with a removal and installation of the new culvert. They got to pull the old culvert out, put the new culvert in, but they have to divert all the water first. And so that's what they're working on right now. And he did say that for residents traveling through the area, for Smithfield residents who live in the area, the lane closures and shifts will change over time. But it's easy expectation, he said, to assume that there will always be at least one lane restriction. At times, especially the day they move the new culvert in, the road itself may be restricted entirely for a few hours, meaning people may be detoured around the block there. But that will only be for one day or one afternoon. Expect 15-minute delays Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. is UDOT's official statement. And again, UDOT is replacing the existing box culvert for Summit Creek that crosses underneath US 91 right on Smithfield Main Street near 100 North. And they'll remove and replace that culvert, do some related work along Summit Creek on the sides of the road, coupled with the replacement of the asphalt and road surface and sidewalks when everything's done. And again, timeline, this started October 2nd. The timeline, if weather plays along, which it should, at least until the road resurfacing, which can't happen until the spring. The timeline for completion of the project, again, is expected to be December 31st. So replacement of the culvert itself actually began mid to late June with some preliminary work that didn't require changes to the road. But they are now officially into the meat of it. So, started October 2nd with this culvert replacement project, and will be complete by December 31st. But again, expect at least one direction to be lane restricted throughout the remainder of the project until the end of the year. So that information from UDOT coming just this week. If you have questions about that, they actually have set up an email and a hotline for this project, since it's such a lengthy project that could impact the roadway quite a bit. And that is Smithfield Culvert at utah.gov, or call their hotline, UDOT's general hotline, for questions and answers, 888-752-8789. So there you have it, your road construction update for November 13th. And I'm sure there will be more and more updates on continuing projects if the snow doesn't come. We'll keep you posted, and we'll be back with more of For the People right after this.
Our children and grandchildren want to live here, and we want them to be here. We must find ways to ensure that our community has safe and affordable housing for all stages of life. I bring experience and a proven track record of creating solutions for Logan. I am Jeannie Simmons, and I ask for your vote.
Paid for by Jeannie Simmons for the Logan City Council.
This is Mark Anderson. Come celebrate a white Christmas with Anderson Seed and Garden. I'm dreaming of a white Christmas. Come celebrate white Christmas with Anderson Seed and Garden. We are potentially giving away $40,000 in merchandise for the first 50 people who spend $500 or more on holiday and Christmas decor between now and November 24th. If it snows at least 4 inches on Christmas Day and you made a qualifying purchase, your purchase is free. But you only have until November 24th to qualify. Only at Anderson Seed and Garden, Logan. See store for official rules.
Attention Aggies, USU Campus Store's annual holiday event is this Wednesday, November 15th from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Be one of the first 100 in-store customers and get a free mug. All Aggie gear is 25% off, including Nike, Champion, Hydro Flask, and Konopexi, along with holiday gift items, including blankets and kitchen goods. Make sure to grab a free hot chocolate, and all $100 purchases will receive a free 2023 collectible bear. Don't miss USU Campus Store's 13th annual holiday sale this Wednesday, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. in the Taggart Student Center, or online at usucampusstore.com.
I'm Larry Gelwicks, the getaway guru with Morris Columbus Travel and Delta Vacations with double discounts on your air and hotel packages to the sunny beaches of Hawaii and Mexico, to Europe and the Caribbean, and you saved like never before. And for the best travel deals on the planet, give us a call at Morris Columbus Travel.
Come on and get away, Morris Columbus.
Chronic pain gets in life's way. But now you can fight back with chronic strength using the VIM app from the Arthritis Foundation. You'll find tips and tools to help you manage your chronic pain, set achievable goals, and be a part of a community that offers support. With the Arthritis Foundation's free VIM app, you'll take back what chronic pain has taken away. Download VIM at arthritis.org/VIM. That's arthritis.org/VIM.
Everyone can help keep our roads safe. When I'm driving my truck, I'll remember to check my mirrors for smaller vehicles. And when you're on the road, try to avoid lingering in my blind spots. Let's all plan to share the road safely. Visit www.sharetheroadsafely.gov.
I'm a wife and the mother of 2 kids, and I've got a good job.
Bye, Mom. See you, Mom.
A pretty important job. Because of my family and my job, I really care about this neighborhood. It's a good neighborhood. Yes, there's some crime. And when I drive to work, like now, I realize that some people here don't trust the police. So the police should be reaching out to this community, and this community should reach out to the police. That's the way to make this a safer place. And when I get to work in the precinct house and put on my uniform, I can tell you as a police officer that this department is reaching out to the community, and the community is doing its part. We're building partnerships. This should be happening everywhere. This is how we can all be safer. Get involved. Start the conversation.
Start the conversation and help stop crime. To learn the 5 things you can do, go to ncpc.org/prevent violent crime. A message from the National Crime Prevention Council and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Wrapping up the show today with a confession. You may have noticed some holiday music here. This is a gift/bet to a friend of the show. A friend of the show I was ran into over the weekend, was talking with, said, it is never too early for holiday music. And I said, you know what? We'll put this to the test. We'll see if we get any complaints. You'll have to wait until tomorrow to see if we got complaints, but I might complain. I'm tempted, actually, to complain. If it wasn't, me causing this music to be played. There is such a thing as far too early for Christmas music. I enjoy it. Whether you are big on celebrating the holiday or not, it's part of the season. It's part of the fun. It also reminds me of, some of the more fun aspects of winter time. People getting together, some of the shopping and holiday sales, quote unquote sales. Speaking of that, on tomorrow's show, we will be talking about Black Friday, or what used to be Black Friday, and is it still a thing? It's a really, really, really good question. You see some of the stores already have their Black Friday sales out, and people talking about the last few years, having a hard time finding, anything that was really that wow of a deal. Are stores even doing it anymore, or is this just a marketing campaign? Well, the National Retail Association actually has some data that we'll break down tomorrow on the show. And spoiler alert, Black Friday is still a thing, but is it because of the deals, or is it because everyone gets kind of caught up in it? That's the question. So tomorrow on the program, we'll also have the latest installment of Sutherland Institute's Defending Ideas. But you get a chance to actually get ahead of this one if you'd like to. I've linked to it on our Facebook page, but a Deseret News opinion piece by Sutherland Institute's Bill Duncan, published today on this is basically a proposal of a reversal of something called the Chevron defense. And Duncan argues it raises some significant questions about the separation of powers. The Chevron defense, for those who are not familiar, is in the mid-20th century, government responsibilities started to grow, and it involved more complicated matters. There's a debate over whether this is necessary or something that just happened. I think it was necessary for a lot of reasons, but the role of experts, Duncan writes, in making public policy is contested and should be highly contested, and most recently in current debates over COVID-19 pandemic and how it was handled. And at the source of this, Duncan says, were constitutional principles of accountability to citizens and more. He writes, when the framers of the Constitution finished their work, they listed basically a list of separation of powers. And he said, by enumerating the powers of each branch, the Constitution makes evident an intention that each would function with a discrete structure, responsibilities, and power as a check on each other, obviously, but also more. But he says in 1965, the U.S. Supreme Court explained if government power is fractionalized, if a given policy can be implemented only by a combination of legislative enactment, judicial application, and executive implement, no matter group of men will be able to impose its unchecked will. Duncan writes that this 1984 decision, Chevron v. Natural Resources Defense Council, overturned that, basically. And I'm not sure I agree with him. Again, we'll be discussing this on tomorrow's show at length, but I would recommend that everyone go read his op-ed and read more about the Chevron defense, which was basically the defense that regulation is not directly, it does not need to be directly spelled out in legislation. It can be, the intent can be implied. That's what Duncan takes issue with. And again, I'm not sure that I agree with him. I'm not sure I disagree with him either, but it does raise some legitimate questions. Check it out. Give it a read, because we'll actually be playing this week's episode of Defending Ideas from Sutherland Institute tomorrow on the program. So a little homework for you tonight. Thank you for joining us. Please join us again tomorrow and stay tuned. Dave Ramsey is next here on KVNU Logan.
News Talk KVNU, Logan, the voice of Northern Utah, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.